call the meeting. You good? Okay, calling the meeting to order. Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, public notice of this meeting has been given by the board secretary in the following manner: posting written notice on the official bulletin board at the Voorhees Township Public Schools Administrative Building on July 8th, 2024, sending written notice to the Courier Post on July 8th, 2024, filing written notice with the clerk of Voorhees Township on July 8th, 2024, and posting on the Voorhees Township website on July 8th, 2024. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So welcome, everyone. Sorry, I wanted to get right down to business, obviously. So thank you all for being here. We have a couple of special presentations this evening, so we're going to get through this agenda as quickly as possible so we can get to the good stuff. Roll call.
Mr. Bryce?
Here.
Ms. Kedover?
Here.
Mr. Rosen?
Here.
Mr. Rosner?
Here.
Mrs. Rutter?
Here.
Mrs. Stewart?
Here.
Mrs. Stupler?
Here.
Ms. Verdi? Mrs. Watson?
Here. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the August 26, 2024 regular board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Online voting is open.
Oh, why is
You know, I think, I'm sorry, can we back up a second?
Yeah, sorry, we did not have executive session, so that's why I had confused everybody. I should have said that publicly.
Sorry,
we have no executive session, so we're not returning to public session.
And I clicked on the wrong thing.
All good. So we're gonna have to revote.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. So I'll put in the same motions, I guess, because I clicked on the wrong. So I have Mr. Rosner and Mr. Bryce for the first and second, and now I will open online voting. I apologize.
It was Mr. Rosen.
I wasn't up.
Rosen was the second.
Oh, Rosen was second? Okay. I have 2 abstentions from Mr. Bryce and Mrs. Stupler, and 1, 2, 3, and 6 yeses. Motion passes.
Perfect. I will keep my comments brief. From what I understand, I obviously attended 2 back to school nights that were fantastic, incredibly well run, one at VMS for the 6th graders and the one at Signal Hill yesterday. I'm so incredibly proud of all of our teachers for running such wonderful back to school nights and keeping the parents informed. I've heard wonderful things from the other schools in the district about their back to school nights running equally as well and seamless, and the parents just having a really nice night meeting the teachers and meeting the other students' parents in the classroom. So thank you to all of the teachers. I know that's double duty for many people and they spent really long nights. So thank you, thank you, thank you. The other wonderful news that we have is, as you all may have seen an announcement we had a couple of weeks ago, when there is an event in our district that is unfortunate, whether it's vandalism, whether there's a weapon that we find out about, we are very limited in our ability to discuss those items. And we have asked Chief Bordy to partner with us to speak to the district at our next board meeting on October 30th to explain the process, explain why we can't say anything, how it does compromise investigations, and what that means for the district. We know that that's really aggravating for a lot of parents, but we wanted to address that and let you know kind of what the process is so that people are a little bit more informed. So we invite everybody to come out to the October 30th meeting so that you can hear Chief Bordy and hear the explanation. And we hope that that gives you guys some additional information so that you understand our process a little bit better. Okay, moving right along, fire drills and safety drills are on the attachments, as well as the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report and the suspension report. We have one Oprah request that is currently closed. Board Secretary report.
Thank you. I'm just giving an update on our Early Childhood Development Center. On Monday, we had our biweekly construction meeting over at the site. On that same day, the framing was inspected and it passed. The day after, the under slab plumbing was inspected and passed. So because of those two things passing, then the pipe trenches can be filled in. So today they're being filled in with dirt, and also concrete will go on them. And the sheetrock will go up next on the framed walls. Site work has begun outside of the building at the playground, and ductwork installation has already begun, as well as the installation of electrical conduits and boxes. So it's pretty exciting. When we meet there, well, Mr. Mathis goes there every single day, but Dr. Hackett and I go there every 2 weeks for the meeting. And each time we go, it looks so different. So I know it'll look completely different when we go in 2 weeks, because this time there were still like dirt piles everywhere because they didn't fill the trenches in. But Mr. Mathis sends me pictures every day, and it really is remarkable. So I know when we go in 2 weeks, it'll look like a different place. So it's pretty exciting, and it is moving forward. So we're happy about that. Thank you.
Okay, superintendent report.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. And my report is lengthy this evening because there are a few presentations. I want to first say that during our board meetings, I'm excited this year because we will showcase a presentation or performance from each of our schools. This evening, I'm proud to say that we have Ms. Morris here from Crescent. Ms. Morris, you want to come on up? And you can give her a round of applause. And she has a presentation prepared titled Crescent Safety Patrol, Where Character Leads the Way.
Thank you. I like getting applause before I... Good evening, Mrs. Watson, Dr. Hackett, board members, and community members. It's a pleasure to be here tonight along with Mrs. Andrew, who is our Crescent Reading Specialist / Safety Patrol Advisor / many other titles. Tonight, she will be here as our Safety Patrol Advisor. And also, as you can see, we have a select group of 5 of our fifth grade Safety Patrol members. These are really the presenters this evening, as much as I do enjoy the round of applause, and it's these guys who are really important in letting you know the importance that we place really overall on character education at our school and in all of our schools, but the belief we share in also with the leadership of our safeties and how important their role is with all the students in Crescent, and how they look forward to becoming safeties when they are in 5th grade, and generally the role that they play. So I'm going to invite Mrs. Andrew to come to the podium to tell you a little bit about our Safety Patrol, some of the things that they do, and then we'll hear from the students.
Good evening, everyone. I've been the Crescent School Safety Patrol Advisor for the last 15 years, at least. I tried to backtrack and count it out, but it's been a long time. Anyway, I love what I do. I love working with the kids. At Crescent, we believe that student leadership is an essential part of behavior management, which is why we have a safety patrol. We think it's important for the students to have a voice, and we do that in many different ways. We encourage all of our 5th grade students to participate in our safety patrol, where they're given the opportunity to be role models for younger students. They're also called upon to help teachers when we have various things happening. Maybe they help to control the hallways or whatever is happening in the school. We definitely reach out for their services. We do have an application process, which also includes teacher recommendations. All students are encouraged to participate, and the students you see here tonight, I'll introduce them in a second, and parents, thank you for allowing them to come this evening. The students will be safeties for the 1st and 3rd marking period, and because we have so many students that sign up to be safeties at our school, we switch off for the 2nd and 4th marking periods. So everyone gets a chance. Just like everything else in school, I feel that elementary school is that time where we practice doing the right thing. And sometimes we make mistakes. And so everyone gets a clean slate. And by 5th grade, it doesn't matter what kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th look like. We want you to be a safety. And each of these guys has definitely represented our school well, and they'll be up to speak with you in just a second. Our safeties help our kindergarten through 2nd grade students pack up at the end of the day. So some of them go into the classrooms to support the teachers. They monitor the hallways during dismissal. They assist students with their bikes and their helmets. They guide and remind students on buses of bus safety measures. No one is ever tattling. That's a big deal, as you can imagine. No one is ever tattling on anyone else. They remind students, hey, please walk in the hallway. Please wear your seatbelt. If something's an issue, we have conversations each month, and the safeties are encouraged, just come to me or one of the other helpers with our safeties, and then we have a conversation with those students. But the safety patrol is definitely essential in keeping our behavior exactly where we want it to be in a very positive way at Crescent School. We also have safeties that assist our car riders to prepare for parent pickup. At our monthly safety meetings, we discuss our successes and our challenges as they pertain to safety patrol. So sometimes, you know, these guys speak kid talk. So sometimes that's what we need to hear as adults. How is it that we get the point across to the rest of the student body? And that's part of the conversation that we'll have at our monthly meetings. Sometimes their ideas are just what we need to keep everyone safe. Just yesterday, we coordinated a poster activity with our current character education program, which is Crescent Pride, the Pride standing for positivity, respect, inclusion, determination, and empathy. Was that fun? And then they decorated the hallways. They did a great job. Tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing a few of our Safety Patrol members who will share their why statements, why they wanted to be a safety. So we have, when I call your name, would you just stand up? We have Saf Goldbrace, Iris Novak, Darren Lance, Grayson Kessler, and Marley Goldstein.
I joined the Safety Patrol because I'm a leader. I would make sure younger grades are safe and not running in hallways, and that they're in straight bus lines. I'd also make sure that they have seatbelts on when seated on the bus. Before I was in 5th grade, safeties have always helped me and my friends, so I always look forward to doing the same.
I will demonstrate being calm and respectful. I will guide little kids to their classroom or destination and help kids put their seatbelts on. Also, I will be a good role model by doing the right thing.
I joined the Safety Patrol because I am kind and I am a good role model to all the boys and girls at Crescent. I want to make a positive impact at school. I'm excited to help others. Thank you.
The reason I applied for Safety Patrol this year is that I wanted to be kind and help other students who may be lost. I will also try to be a role model every day and follow directions as well as school rules. I look forward to helping Crescent Elementary School. As a Safety Patrol member, I can help the younger students safely get to their spots at the end of the day. If a student is lost or confused, I could direct them where they need to be. I can make sure they can feel comfortable by being friendly and kind. I will also make sure students don't run in the hallways or yell inappropriately. For these reasons, I would be a great Safety Patrol member.
In addition to our Safety Patrol, and thank you very much, you did a great job. In addition to our Safety Patrol, we would also like to share with you one of our most important end of year grade 5 awards. Our school resource officers, dear to my heart. I certainly could not run busing. Right now we have Officer Jim, and do we love Officer Jim? I mean, there's not a child in the school that Officer Jim doesn't know. And prior to Officer Jim, we had Officer Scott Davis, again, dear to my heart. And Officer Scott Davis came to me one day, and I say how important our school resource officers are because they're family to us. And they're also role models, and they play a huge role in why we have a safety patrol. Yes, there's our coin. So Officer Scott Davis came to me one day, and he had an idea. He said, Barb, I'd like to create a challenge coin. And he had a coin that was given to him, and he shared it with me, and I had never even heard of it. And I thought it was such a cool idea. So he said, could we partner with the Voorhees Police Department and the Voorhees school system and create a coin, a challenge coin for our students? And if you look at the coin, we selfishly took the KRESSON that matched at the time our character traits that we were focusing on at Crescent School. And we together created the character coin of excellence. So at the end of the school year, we look very, very carefully throughout the year and throughout all of your years at Crescent for that student, sometimes more than one student, but believe it or not, it's such a prestigious award at our school that it's not easy to win. So we look at the students who definitely demonstrate the epitome of kindness, responsibility, selflessness, empathy, self-awareness, optimism, and nobility. And at the end of the year, we award the coin of character. Officer Davis, before his passing, he asked that this be the one thing that we continue. I can't believe I'm getting choked up over this, but I do believe it. He asked that we make sure that we always do this. We love this award. We get every teacher involved in making decisions about this award. And I hope it's something that as you open it, it's in front of you. I hope you realize how important it may be to the students who win this award. So it's something that kind of brings us and our school resource officer together at the end of the year, just to continue that push for leadership at the elementary level. So thank you very much.
We just have a small token of appreciation for our safety patrol. Ms. Andrews, thank you for your 15 years of dedication to that program. Thank you.
We are not going to keep you guys here. Please feel free to leave. Congratulations to all the families.
Thank you so much for coming. We're great. Okay, I'm going to move into my report. So good evening, everyone. I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to our dedicated staff for their incredible efforts during the successful first few weeks of school. Your commitment to our students and community has been truly inspiring. I also want to extend a special thank you to our supportive parents for their patience, their kindness, and just their overall collaboration with the school district. We have faced a few transportation challenges as we started the school year, and I just want to thank the parents for their patience. And please rest assured that our transportation coordinator is actively working to address and resolve all issues as quickly as possible. Together, we are creating a positive and enriching environment for our students, and I'm so appreciative of everyone. At our last board meeting in August, there was a lot of discussion regarding the new sewer line that we'd like to put here at the board office. Just to give a little background, we currently have a septic tank here, and we want to put in a sewer line. And so there were a couple of questions asked at the board meeting that I'd like to respond to. The first question was, why was the architect's quote for the sewer line underestimated? So just a little bit of background, we budgeted $250,000 for the sewer line. The quote from the vendor came in at $613,000, which was $363,000 over what we budgeted. So the question was, why was this why was this estimate so, why was the actual number so much greater than our estimate? So the district reviewed called our architect. Our architect uses an engineer to look at the system and determine what a good estimate would be. So we then called the engineering firm to ask why was the estimate so much greater, or so much lower, I'm sorry. So the engineer gave us 4 reasons. The first, the engineer said, was complexity. The project that he used to compare us to is not as complex as the project we have here at the board office. So when the engineer came up with the estimate of $250,000, he was using projects that he thought were similar. But our project does have some complexity because of the depth, the utility conflicts, the location, the highway. So that made the estimating very difficult. He actually over-exaggerated the estimated price, and it still came so much lower. Reason number 2 is that there's a fear factor and production rate. It's extremely difficult to quantify and put a monetary value on the fear factor of a project like this, as well as try to guess what a contractor thinks the production rate will be. For projects as complicated as this, a contractor will apply a higher multiplier in the price to make sure they are protected in the event of slowdowns or unforeseen conditions. He did give an example. He said, if an engineer thinks a contractor can install 150 feet of sewer main a day for this project, but the contractor believes that only 50 feet can be installed, this will increase the cost 3 times as much. The third reason was because of there's anticipation of how the work will be completed. The engineer may believe that the work can be completed one way, but then the contractor looks at it and says, no, we can't do that. So that would also increase the cost. Finally, the fourth reason was because there were a lot of additional requests from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, Camden County Utility Authority, and Voorhees Township. They asked for a lot of additional things that doubled in linear feet into the project. And more importantly, the added length of a pipe was in a very complex area in the front of the school and had a much bigger compounding effect than the engineer estimated. So the engineer truly believes that he provided an estimate to the best of his ability based on previous projects, but those 4 reasons that I cited above are made the estimate difficult, and of course we were under what the actual cost is. Okay. During the August meeting, there was a community member who asked some questions about the sewer line. I did respond to that community member in an email. I'm not sure if the community member received it. I did not get a response back, but I do want to answer the question now. The first question was, why was the sewer line project not completed in the previous 3 years? Because we've had this in our budget for 3 years to do. And so the response to that is it was challenging to move the project forward due to the need for extensive coordination between our professionals and various agencies. We appointed a new architect in January of 23 who prioritized advancing the project out of a significant concern that the septic system was nearing the end of its life cycle. Another question asked by that community member is, why do we need the sewer line? Response is the board office was built in 1957, making the septic system 67 years old. The average life expectancy of a septic system is 40 years. And I believe we've gained an additional 27 years because during this time, the building transitioned from a school to an administrative office, which reduced the number of flushes that the septic system had to handle. The next question was, if the septic system was failing, why was the superintendent's private bathroom installed? So first, I just want to be very clear that there was not an installation of a large bathroom. There was a toilet and vanity and a wall built in a space that was designed as a kitchenette. So there was already a kitchenette in that superintendent's suite that had existing plumbing. a toilet and vanity were installed. In the context of a septic tank, the primary concern is the volume of wastewater produced, which is related to the number of flushes rather than the number of toilets. Each flush adds to the overall volume of waste in the tank. So if the septic system is nearing the end of its life or already overloaded, yes, a new toilet can intensify the problem if it leads to significantly more flushes. And I can say that as now with the additional toilet, there are no additional flushes being made to the toilet. So I have now answered the questions from the about the sewer, and I hope that if there are any other questions, you can please feel free to email me. There were a few other questions not related to the sewer at the meeting. What's the direction for AI for our staff, artificial intelligence? AI is a big thing right now in education. And I can tell you that I'm so proud of Mr. Taylor and his technology team. We are working toward training our teachers. By the end of the year, all of our teachers would have had 4 hours of training on AI and some of the tools that we'll be using. So we are mindful that AI can have a positive impact in the classroom, but we're also mindful that it has to be used appropriately. So we are planning for that training. And then there was another question, what's the status of the middle school principal position? And we conducted the second round of interviews on August 28th, and Ms. Alicia Inch, who is present this evening, was identified as the top candidate, and her name appears on the agenda this evening. Another question, how will preschool teachers be placed until the school opens? That was a great question. Our preschool teachers are now partnered with our existing preschool staffs. So our Voorhees early childhood preschool teachers are matched up with our existing preschool staff, and they are working to learn the curriculum. We pull them out. We're going to pull them out once a week to receive training. So when that building opens, they will be ready to go. So they are partnered with our existing teachers now. And there was another question about the impact of the cell phone policy, or will there be a cell phone policy? And I believe that's a matter that's going to be introduced at an upcoming policy meeting. And that ends those questions. We have a parent workshop on October 15th at 7 o'clock, and I hope all of our parents can attend. It's our annual harassment, intimidation, and bullying workshop, but this year there will be a slight difference in it. We're going to really focus on the difference between bullying and conflict and really provide a lot of information in that area. So I hope that our parents can attend. On the website is a list of all of our parent virtual workshops for the year with the links to join. So I hope that you're able to join us on October 15th. And I also like to share some initiatives we are implementing as proactive measures to ensure a safe and secure learning environment in our district. As a data-driven district, we utilize various data sets to make informed decisions and identify trends that guide our efforts. A recent data point is the profile survey that we sent out for the next middle school assistant principal, in which parents and teachers together, 63.2%, indicated that behavior is the most pressing issue facing the middle school. So that's a large percentage. So we want to look at that data point as well as other data points and begin to make sure that we have a proactive measure to address any concerns that our parents and teachers have. Over the past 2 years, we've seen an increase in our suspensions among male students district-wide, and particularly the African-American and Hispanic subgroups in our middle school. So we have to address that issue as well. So in addition to the existing programs at the middle school that focus on climate and culture, I've been working with Ms. Inge, and we meet once a week to come up with some other more proactive initiatives to support our students, and she's worked with her administrative team. And I see Mr. Winsett is here this evening. Welcome. The first idea we came up with is an empowerment guest speaker series where we bring in guest speakers to speak to our students regarding kindness, the value of their self-worth, reflection, respect. So we are looking to get our first speaker in, and then after the speaker finishes, we'll have subgroups where people will come in and bring kids out into smaller groups and speak with them and talk to them. And then we'll have our next speaker, and then we'll have subgroups. And these speakers will be of various ethnic backgrounds. So it's the same message, but we'll get it from different ways. Next, we're looking at a teacher mentorship program where we're going to offer our teachers a stipend to serve as mentors for some of our students. In that role, we ask the teachers to meet with the students in the morning and meet with them at the end of the day. If you see them in a hallway, how's their day going? If they were, unfortunately, not to follow our code of conduct, we expect that teacher to meet with them and talk to them. The teacher will introduce him or herself to the families and let them know, I'm the mentor for your child this year. It's just a way to connect, and so that students know that there's someone in the school who they can connect to. So we're looking at bringing that program as teacher mentorship program. We're also looking at a Saturday reflection sessions. And that's where students who may not have followed our code of conduct will have to join us on a Saturday, and they'll watch a video on behavior, engage in restorative practices. So how can I get better? What can I do to improve? And discuss expectations with the teacher, and also set some goals. So when that Saturday is over and you walk in the door on Monday, what's your goals? What are you going to do so that this, whatever you're here for, does not happen again? Because again, there is a consequence to behavior, but a consequence cannot be the only thing. Now we have to build, what are we going to do next? So we're going to bring the Saturday session back. And I think almost 43% of the teachers at the middle school indicated that they would be willing to work this session. So that's wonderful. And then finally, mandatory post-suspension meetings. So we do know, unfortunately, that suspensions are sometimes warranted, and we have to follow our policy. So every student who comes back from suspension will have to meet with Ms. Inge as a readmit. So sometimes when your parent picks a child up on a Friday because there's been a problem, they'll meet with someone very quickly, and then that's it, the child comes back on Monday. Well, that will not be it anymore. The parent will have to come in and have a sit down, and we're going to talk about ways to come up with a plan of action so that whatever happened does not happen again. On the second suspension, and we're hoping that we don't get there, but a student who's suspended the second time, their readmit conference will be with me in my office. Here, the parent will have to come in and sit with me, and so that we can build a relationship and we can come up with a plan so that we don't have a third suspension. So that's some of the things we're putting in place that we're hoping will promote and improve our climate at the middle school. The middle school is great, but there are a few students who we have to say to themselves, we have to love them and teach them to love themselves and make sure that they're being respectful at all times. So we are working towards that. We hear you, we heard the survey. We know that there is a concern, and we are certainly addressing that concern, okay? At this time, I'm going to invite Ms. Donnelly up, and Ms. Donnelly is going to do a presentation, a very brief presentation on our HIB self-assessment report. This is an annual report that we are required to provide. Thank you, Ms. Donnelly.
Good evening, Mrs. Watson, Dr. Hackett, board members, and community members. Annually, the State of New Jersey Department of Education puts out the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights self-assessment. And this is done by our anti-bully specialists in each building. So it's a self-assessment reflecting on 8 core points. Might need help here. Perfect. There's a rubric that's provided by the Department of Education, so you can get 1 point or 4 points for each of the 8 core elements. It either we have not met the requirements, we partially meet the requirements, we met all of the requirements, or we exceed the requirements. Thank you. This was part of the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights, which started in 2011, and the 8 core values basically go through programs and initiatives that the schools have individually. So all 5 schools have to do the self-assessment. Programs and initiatives, training on Board of Education approved policy, other staff training programs, curriculum and instruction as it relates to harassment, intimidation, and bullying, our harassment, intimidation, and bullying personnel, school level reporting procedures, our investigative procedures, and all of our harassment, intimidation, and bullying reporting procedures. Thank you. So each building did complete their self-assessment, and the results get tallied into a total score. So for the 5 schools in our core element 1, which is the programs, approaches, and other initiatives, that includes like assemblies, what kind of programs the schools are using, the character education that's being used. So a possible 15 points, our 5 schools averaged a 14.6 in core element 1. Thank you. For core element 2, training, There's certain things that are mandated every year. Staff has to be trained in harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Suicide prevention training takes place. HIB policy needs to be discussed with students. So for core element 2, out of a possible 9 points, district average was at 8.8. For core element 3, other staff instruction and training, whether our anti-bully specialists are trained, if they have an opportunity to participate in professional development. We have school safety teams, how often they meet. So that's all part of it. Again, out of 15 points, our district average was a 14.4. For core element number 4, which is curriculum and instruction on HIB related information and skills, there were 6 points possible. We were at a 5.6. Core element 5, total of 9 points available, and the district average was 9 points. That we're just following the personnel procedures. We have an anti-bully specialist in each building, anti-bully coordinator, yours truly, and that our school safety specialist teams are active and they do meet 2 times a year. So we did have 9 points there. For core element 6, our incident reporting procedures, we use a program called Hipster. It's very helpful. It kind of lines everything up for us. So out of 6 total points, our district average was a 5.8. For core element 7, the investigation process and procedures, again, it's all time-stamped. Everything has a deadline, and that aligns with Hipster, how we notify parents, the completion, when the board finds out about any incidents that occur. So out of 12 points, we averaged all 12. And core element 8 is the reporting. And that is, again, the timeline that is required by the state for reporting. And out of possible 6 points, our districts had 6. So our total score out of the 78 points on the self-assessment, the district score for this year was a 76.2, and for last year was 76. So small gains, still gains, good. Moving in the right direction. So basically we're finding that we either meet or exceed the requirements for all of those core elements. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you do any education with parents and community to educate them on what a HIB is, when to use a HIB? Because we do get the data that they're founded or unfounded, and a lot of them are unfounded. So do you do any sort of education to say, this is when you should file a HIB, this is when you shouldn't file a HIB?
I do.
Because from my understanding is anybody can walk in and say, I want to file a HIB, and you looked at me the wrong way, right? I mean, is there, right, because you have to legally, right?
Correct.
So is there any sort of education that you, schools, et cetera, do to educate the community?
Yes.
To kind of help.
Every October, I have done virtual presentations, and this October 15th, which Dr. Hackett mentioned in her report, I'll have a parent workshop just for parents to come to, log in and sign in, and I have a whole presentation.
Yeah, but I think you got to, I mean, how big is your usual audience? Because
small.
Right. So I don't know how, maybe there's like another way that you could become more effective and really reach to the community just to save,
Right. No, we present it every October. It's on the website. So I do put the PowerPoint slides up on the website. And I believe last year I sent it out, but Dr. Hackett and I actually spoke today that we're going to do a standalone of just my presentation after I present it, so that every parent will get it through our email blast as well. I also communicate with parents very regularly when they have an active harassment, intimidation, and bullying case.
Right.
So how the appeal process works, what are the steps that can be taken?
My point is, like, you shouldn't have to get that far, right? I mean, people should be aware, right, and understand when that tool is necessary and unnecessary. So
sure, yes,
it's an idea.
Always willing to help educate.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Donnelly. Each year, we're required to report on our Access for Ls, which Ms. Lyons did last month, for the multilingual students. We have to report on that. And now Dr. Allegria is going to report on dynamic learning maps, which is also an annual report. And then I will follow Dr. Allegria with our annual state assessment report. Normally, Mr. Moskowitz or our assistant superintendent would present this report. Unfortunately, Mr. Moskowitz is ill today. He wanted to be here. He did a great job putting the report together, and I hope I do him justice by presenting it. So after Dr. Alegria, I will be next presenting our NJSLA annual state assessment report. So Dr. Alegria.
Okay, good evening. Good evening, Mrs. Watson and all members of the board and our community. So as Dr. Hackett mentioned, we do have to present annually on the dynamic learning maps, which is called DLM. And this is the alternate assessment for our students who are in some of our more involved self-contained classes, such as an autism or multiple disabilities class. Okay, so what is the DLM? The DLM is really for our students who are unable to access the NJSLA due to their cognitive disabilities. And so this is for students in grades 3 through 8. And it does focus on the essential elements, which are in relation to the New Jersey standards for students in the general population. It is a tiered assessment, and it is done individually for each student. There we go. So who can take the DLM? This criteria that's up on the board is something that is reviewed at every IEP meeting for students who are being considered for the DLM. So we're looking to see if the student has a disability that significantly impacts their intellectual functioning and adaptive behavior, that the student is taught primarily using the DLM essential elements, that the student requires extensive, repeated, individualized instruction and support that is not of a temporary or transit nature. The student uses substantially adapted materials and individualized methods of assessing that information. And the student's significant intellectual disability will impact their post-school outcomes, such as employment or housing. So this is something that the IEP team reviews with every student who this is under consideration. So the DLM is administered by the classroom teachers. This really is a big effort because it is done individually. So oftentimes this is something that's worked out in the classroom through, centers and whatnot to allow for the teacher or even an IA to really support that student. But the classroom teachers are responsible for administering the test to each of the students who meet that criteria. And their assessment or their performance, is tiered. And so I'll talk about that a little bit. There are multiple testlets that can be administered within the day, but it really just does depend on that individual learner. So if we're looking at the test results, we have emerging, approaching the target, at target, and advanced. For our students who we find who get on the advanced level, those are the students that we're trying to push up and move out of the essential elements and more into the New Jersey NJSLA for the following year. Those individual student reports are mailed home to families in the fall every school year. This is just some information on their performance level indicators and how to interpret those results. So when we're looking at our Voorhees student assessment details, we had 25 students take the DLM for ELA and 23 for math. The discrepancy between the two student discrepancy is because we did have 2 of our students in that type of program of autism, MD, or even LLD take the NJSLA. So they took that in math because that's where they had higher skills and were able to be assessed. And then they took it in the DLM and ELA. We also had 9 students take the DLM in science. So science is given in grades 5 and 8. So some of those results, when we're looking at the ELA, we had 11 students at emerging. We have 9 students at approaching target, 4 at the target, and 1 at that advanced. Very similar results for the math, which is 11 students for emerging, 5 students approaching the target, 6 at the target, and 1 in advanced. Our science scores are too low. We don't quite have 10 students, so I'm unable to report specifics on that due to confidentiality, but we did have a few students who took the science. Sorry. All right, so when we break down our scores a little bit more, we have for this year, we had 44 students at the emerging, 36% of our students at approaching target, and 20 at target, or advanced. And then I put the scores for last year, 2023, and then we can look at the difference. So our emerging has gone down by 1%, our approaching target has increased by 6%, and our at target and advanced has increased by 7% for ELA. Our math scores are there's a little bit more of an increase. So when we're looking at our emerging, we had 48% in emerging, and 22% at approaching target, and 30% at or above target or advanced. So our emerging has reduced by 28, which is great. And then we see that our approaching target, our approaching is increased by 21%, which is a pretty big increase. And then our at target and advanced has increased by 7%. So across the board, we are seeing our numbers decrease where they need to, but then also seeing those increases at approaching target, at target, and advanced. So the plan for 24-25 is the testing window begins April 7th and it goes until May 23rd. The majority of the time we use that entire testing window just due to the complexity of administering the test, as it is very individualized. But we do send out letters to families letting them know about the testing window. Some of the interventions that we have put in place this year in reviewing some of the DLM assessment data and really just drilling down on what the needs are of our students include some additions and modifications to the curriculum that's being used within those self-contained classes. We use the STAR assessment, or we use a STAR curriculum, and then link STARs in our elementary, and then we use links in our middle school. We've also added the implementation of ALL, which is accessible literacy learning. We have seen that our literacy does need to be increased and improved, especially when it comes to the DLM. And so we are looking to work through that for this year, in addition to, of course, our discrete trials, our pivotal response training, our community-based instruction that we have, and many other components of our self-contained program, just working through those as well. And sorry, you might have to move it for me. Oh, that was it. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. So I have the pleasure of presenting this information, and I just want to first again acknowledge Mr. Moskowitz. Thank you so much. Acknowledge Mr. Moskowitz for putting this report together, and he really was very disappointed that he could not be here this evening to present the data. So I'm going to present the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment results for 2024. I'm looking at you, but I have the slide in my hand. There we go. Thank you. This is the vision for public education in New Jersey, and it basically says that in New Jersey, we want to prepare everyone to be 21st century thinkers and learners. We want everyone to have critical thinking. And one of the things we've done this year in the district is we put together a district kind of definition of rigor. What is rigor? And rigor is meeting every child at their ability level and taking them right before they get to frustration. That is rigor, and rigor looks different for each and every child. There are 5 performance levels for the NJSLA. For the purposes of this report, we focus on levels 4 and 5 because that is reporting on proficiency. We look at level 3 because those are kids who are right there on the borderline. And levels 1 and 2, we do address them outside of this presentation because we have many elements in place to address their needs. Our Osage assistant principal, is now responsible for basic skills instruction and also responsible for response to intervention, RTI. That person was responsible for English across the district, and we took that away and gave that person RTI, response to intervention, and basic skills. And basically, the work that Ms. Morgan has done has been incredible in the last 2 years. She's put together a structure so that RTI and basic skills looks the same across the district, that we have the same structures in place, that our kids are getting the same interventions. She's made the RTI process much more succinct, but it meets the needs of all the students. So I want to thank her publicly, along with Ms. Ross, who's worked very closely with her to make sure that we have these structures in place. And that's how we meet the needs of our level 1 and 2 students through RTI, through basic skills, through small group instruction, where teachers place students in groups and then meet them at their ability level, getting everyone to the goal, which is the standard for the day, but it looks different. If I'm looking at level 1 group, they may have a lot of manipulatives. Level 3 group may have some advanced work, but the goal is to get everyone to the standards of the grade level standards, but it just looks different because everyone's rigor looks different. Next slide. So I just want to share a little bit of information with the community before we go into the report so that you can look for these things in our report. Level 5 proficiency in math, which means that the student has exceeded grade level expectations. It was higher in every grade tested, with the exception of grade 5, which remained unchanged. So all of the grades except for grade 5 saw an increase in the number of students who were level 5 proficiency in math, except for grade 5, and they remained the same as 2023. Level 5 proficiency in ELA, again, students who have exceeded grade level expectations, was higher in grade 6. Level 4 in ELA was higher in all grades except for grade 4. And you're going to hear a lot about grade 4 during my presentation. If you may recall from last year, our grade 4 students were grade 3 last year. Grade 3 last year's scores were the lowest of all of the grade groups last year. And we had said last year that those students were in kindergarten when COVID we went out for COVID, and they were in first grade when we had the hybrid year. So they lost a lot of that core instruction. So we knew that our 4th graders this year, we would not see the results that we had seen in previous 4th grade years. We anticipated that, and you'll see that throughout the presentation. The NJSLA proficiency for levels 4 and 5 are gradually approaching what they were pre-pandemic, which is important because we want to get back to that number, and then we want to exceed it. There have been 3 administrations of the NJSLA since pre-pandemic. We've had 3 administrations. Okay, subgroup data has shown that ELA and math from 23 to 24 has increased, and we also, I'm very proud to say, decreasing the achievement gap. So our subgroups are our racial groups, along with our economically disadvantaged, which are those students who receive free and reduced lunch, and also our special education students. We do not report data for our multilingual learners at this time because the number is below 10 for the grade levels, and we cannot report that data. Our areas for growth, which you will see throughout this presentation, are grades 4 and 7. You'll see that those are our areas for growth. We anticipated grade 4 would be an area. Grade 7, we are researching to determine some of those areas and why that grade level is target now. This slide shows you how we are in comparison to the state average. So in ELA, you can see that we are above the state average in all areas. Just draw your attention to grade 5, we're 27% above the state average. In math as well, we are above the state average in every grade. And if you can look at Algebra 1, which is dynamic, we are 59% above the state average in Algebra 1, which is incredible. So although we do have grade 4 and 7 as our target grades, they still were above the state average. Okay. This next slide looks at pre-pandemic difference, and it also shows you the state average. So you can see the state average for every grade level in English language arts. And then I'm just drawing your attention to the pre-pandemic difference. So the area in yellow means we still have not met the pre-pandemic difference, and that is comparing 2004 to 2019. The 18-19 school year was the last year of testing before the pandemic. So the areas in yellow indicate that we still have that percentage to go before we meet pre-pandemic numbers. The areas in green indicate that for grade 5, we've exceeded our pre-pandemic number by 6%, and in grade 6, we've met our pre-pandemic number. So we still have work to do, and you'll see there 4 and 7 definitely are the grades there that indicate that there is still work to be done. So again, in grade 4, we did anticipate that the students in grade 4 for 24 we're not going to do as good as the students who were in grade 4 and 23. We knew that because of the performance in grade 3. And you can see for grade 4 in 2023, it was 75%. And in 2024, 67% proficiency. So when comparing grade 4 to grade 4, we did know that there would not, more than likely would not be an increase. But one data point I do want to show you is if you look at what they were, those same students in grade 3 for 2023, they were 57% had proficiency. In 2024, when they were 4th graders, it was 67% proficiency. So let me just caution you that they are not the same exact students, but the majority of them are. There are some students who transfer in and transfer out, but we are seeing that when they were 3rd grade, they were 57, and 4th grade, they were 67. So when we're comparing the same students to each other, we did see an increase, okay? It's not the strongest of data points, but it is one to consider that they are improving when you compare them to themselves, but not to the previous grade level. I think this is very sensitive here. Okay, I just wanted to show you level 1, 2, and 3 data. Again, for levels 1 and 2, we have interventions in place, and I'll go a little bit more into some of those interventions at the end of the presentation. And we do look at level 3 to see those students who are right there on the borderline. But we just wanted to share this data to show the trend over the last 4 years. This presentation will definitely be on the website for you to be able to further digest the information. And if you have any questions, you can definitely email myself or Mr. Moskowitz. These are the data points we look at, those 4 and 5 for proficiency's sake. If you see an area in green, it means when comparing 23 to 24, there was an increase. The areas in yellow, when you're comparing 23 to 24, there was a decrease. Okay. Again, we're comparing 23, 24, you're comparing 2 different groups of students in that grade. And if you look at the 4th grade, they had, in 23, they had 50%, and in 24, they had 43. So that was, they didn't even keep up with themselves for that particular time, and that's something that we have to definitely look into. But I do want to give an example that just because there's a decrease in level 4, it may not be the worst thing. If you look at grade 6, there was a decrease of 51% to 48% when comparing 23 to 24, which is 3%. But if you go on to the level 5, there was a 16% in 23 and a 26% in 24. So although there was a decrease, those students are more than likely over in the level 5. So every time there's a decrease in level 4, it would not automatically translate to that there's an issue if those kids are sitting now in level 5, which is a good thing. So when you look at the level 4 chart, the only data point that we would look at as an area of concern would be the 4th grade, because that 6th grade, they're more than likely sitting over in level 5 now, which is a good thing. Okay, looking at level 5, we did see some dips in grades 3, 4, and 7, and 8. And we're going to talk about grade 8 shortly in English language arts. Okay. So now we're looking at the individual schools, and the first data point is called the change. That is from 23 to 24. If it's in green, there was an increase when comparing 3rd graders of 24 to 3rd graders of 23. We see that there's those, in each school, there were all increases. Grade 4, which is the grade that we're targeting, when you compare them to the 4th graders the year before, there was not an increase. Actually, there was a decrease. But again, we want to go back and look at what they did in grade 3, so we're comparing them to themselves. Grade 5, we saw some great numbers. The change went up in every school with the exception of Signal Hill. So let's just take a quick look at some of those 3rd to 4th grade comparisons. If you look at E.T. Hamilton in 3rd grade in 2023, it was 55% proficiency. But if you go over to 4th grade, it is 65% proficiency. So again, in comparing that, the majority of that same group of students, we are seeing an increase. We just didn't see it large enough for them to be compared to the 4th grade class the year before. So, but we are seeing, and that's what we want. We want students to improve individually. We do have work to do with this particular class, which are now 5th graders this year, but we definitely saw that they improved in English language arts. The next group of information is your pre-pandemic numbers. If they are in yellow, we still have room to go before we get to that pre-pandemic number. If it's in green, we have either met or exceeded the pre-pandemic number. And if you look at Crescent for grade 4, even though grade 4 has been our challenge, they are 11% above their pre-pandemic number. And you can see in grade 5, every school has exceeded now their pre-pandemic number. We're going to do the same data point for math, looking at that pre-pandemic difference and also the state average. Again, we're well above the state average in every grade level. Pre-pandemic, if it's green, if it's a 0%, that means the same. We met the 2024 is the same as 2019. Any other green is above the pre-pandemic number, and the yellow means we have not met it yet. And again, you see grades 4 and 7. It'll be a trend. You'll see grades 4 and 7 throughout this presentation as grade levels that we have to address. And those students are going to be 5th and 8th graders this year. This is a very sensitive device here. Okay, we're going to go to grades 3, 4, and 5 in math and see the same data set. We'll see the change. If you see green, that means there was an increase from 23 to 24 when comparing the grade levels. And the pre-pandemic numbers in yellow means we haven't met it yet, the pre-pandemic. If it's in green and there's a couple of zeros there, either we have met it or the green, other green areas means we have passed it. Again, grade 4 stands out as our area of concern. Again, that was the 3rd grade class of last year where we had very low scores for that grade level. Okay. And this, unfortunately, in math doesn't work out quite the same. It doesn't work out as quite the same when you're looking at the 3rd grade to the 4th grade. So for example, if you look at E.T. Hamilton for 2023 in grade 3, it was 69%. But when you go to grade 4, it was 66%. So we did not in math see the same results that we saw in English, where when comparing majority of the kids to themselves, there was an increase. What I can say about grade 4, though, is that is the grade level when it comes to math, where you get most of the new standards and you get most of the difficult standards. That's when the fraction comes in, a lot of high-level decimals. So that is a very tough grade across the state of New Jersey in math, grade 4. But we are concerned that we didn't see the same level of growth that we saw in ELA. And one of the things that we are doing this year is we're going to all the 4th grade classes. We went to 2 schools already. When I say we, Mr. Moskowitz, Ms. Donnelly, and myself, and we'll be going to 2 more schools next week to look at the 4th grade. This is just quick visits. Then we'll do our real visits in October. We'll be going to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade math classrooms. We're just looking for trends, and we're looking for that level of rigor that we have talked about as a staff in the district. Okay, we're going to look at levels 1, 2, and 3 in math. Again, that's just for your information. And again, this will be shared so people can digest the information more and ask any questions they have. Our mathematics scores, this is the difference between 23 and 24. If you see green, it means there is an increase. And the yellow areas means that there was a decrease when comparing 23 to 24. Again, the areas are the 4th and 7th grade. You'll see those in yellow. And we're definitely going to look at what happened in grade 3. But all other areas were an increase when comparing levels 4 and 5, 23 and 24 school years. Okay, we're moving to the middle school. We had 74% in total. Grade 6 ELA proficiency, 4 and 5 was 74%, which is very good. In 7th grade, 72%. And in 8th grade, we had 69%. Now in 8th grade, there was a dip this year, and we'll talk about that in another slide. There was a humongous dip in comparing 23 to 24, but even with that dip, we still had 69%. So we're looking at about 25 to 30% of students who are not scoring at the 4 and 5 level. We definitely have work to do, but a lot of them are falling in level 3. So we're going to focus on what was it about the level 3 that kept them from getting a 4, and we're going to work on that as well. We do a lot of individual data keeping to determine where our students are falling short. The next comparisons for our middle school, again, you see the change. If it's in green, we have improved comparing 23 and 24 or stayed the same. If it's in yellow, there was a difference. And this is where I want to point out 8th grade. As you can see in 23, the 8th grade class in ELA had 84% of proficiency, which was excellent. But this year they had 69%, which is a little bit more in line to 22 and 19. So we're trying to determine what the factor was, that where there was that 84 to 69, was the 84 just a unique year? We're definitely trying to determine why there's such a big difference there. I can tell you that we did have one English teacher out on a leave and one basic skills English teacher was also on a leave. But again, it's just that's such a large number at 84%, and the other numbers are a little more consistent. So we're just definitely trying to look at what happened there. And I'll talk to you later on about evidence statements that are going to help us figure that out. And then their movement toward pre-pandemic. The 6th grade has met their pre-pandemic, and in 7th and 8th, we have a little ways to go to get there, 6% and 5%. Okay, our math results are not as good as our English results, where we have 52% proficiency in grade 6. So we do have a lot of work to do there. And we do have 28% sitting in level 3. So we need to figure out how they fell short, why they fell short, and provide them with the intervention that they need. And those level 1 and 2 students, we need to continue with our RTI, our basic skills. Dr. Allegria is working in her department so that we can continue to move these kids along this continuum. Our 7th grade math had a 50% proficiency. Again, we have work to do. So half our students in grade 7 are proficient at level 4 and 5. We have a large group sitting in level 3, 30%. So we're going to work with that. And grade 8, 36%. I know that seems very low, and you'll see in comparison to 3 years that it is about on point what was happening even pre-pandemic. However, this score does not include your Algebra 1 students, where there was a 99% proficiency and they were 59% over the state average. This does not include those students. These are the students who do not take Algebra 1. And again, we have work to do with only a 36% proficiency. We're going to work on that as well. Okay, this is a comparison of the change for the math. And you can see we have more green on this page, and the area that is not green is grade 7. And again, 4 and 7 are our 2 areas. But you can see that the change is increased in math, and they're, all of the grade levels except for 7 have met their pre-pandemic number, exceeded their pre-pandemic number. Okay, this is a slide I just want to show you. It's going to be another shot that makes this a lot more easier to interpret. But the first first column, I'm sorry, is total population. That's the number of students, or all the students together who scored a level 4 and 5. And then you can see in comparison to how our subgroups did, our economically disadvantaged, our Caucasian students, our African American, Hispanic, Asian, and IEP. And again, our multilingual learners are not on this chart because of suppression. But you can see how our students are moving close to the total population, or if they're further from the total population. That results in our achievement gap. If our students are far from the total population, we have a larger achievement gap. So we are trying to close that achievement gap. And again, I'll show you a better slide for that. Okay, we did the same thing here with math, trying to see who's close to the achievement gap, who's close to the total population and who's not. Right, and then this is a better slide here. So in English language arts, this is our subgroup information. Everywhere you see green, it means that there was an increase from 23 to 24. And what you want to note is if you look at grade 3, for example, 5%, the total population increased by 5% when comparing 23 to 24. We went up 5%. But look at our economically disadvantaged, they went up 7%. Our African-American students went up 9%. Our Hispanic students went up 25%. And our Asian students went up 9%, Caucasian 2%. So what it means is that our subgroups are beginning to exceed the total population increase, meaning that we are closing the achievement gap. Okay. This thing is just moving on its own. I think it's telling me to move ahead. Math results, again, same thing. If you see the green, now you're going to see where there's a lot of yellow. Where's the yellow? It's in our 4th grade, and we've talked about 4th grade, and it's in our 7th grade. If you take out the 4th and 7th grade, there you'll definitely see that there is more areas that are green, which means, again, if you just look at grade 3 again, economically disadvantaged went up by 11%. Total population went up by 5. We're closing the achievement gap. Hispanic, 30% for grade 3. We're closing the achievement gap. So in conclusion, we're going to just share a few things that I talked about in the beginning and then add a few more. Level 5 proficiency in math, we talked about that in the beginning, has exceeded, has increased in all grade levels except for 5, which was exactly the same. So we did very well in math as far as level 5. Level 5 proficiency in ELA went up in grade 6, and level 4 went up in grades 3, 5, 7, and 8. Again, grade 4 is not included. That is in target area for us. Every school in grade 5 surpassed their ELA proficiency levels that were achieved pre-pandemic. Subgroup data has shown increases in language arts and math and decreases in the achievement gap. Subgroup data in ELA saw higher proficiencies in grades 3, 5, and 6, and the Hispanic subgroup, which was a focus last year, saw a 25% improvement in grade 3 and 32% in grade 6. Why was our Hispanic population a focus group? Their scores were the lowest last year, and their chronic absenteeism was the highest. So we did have a significant focus on our Hispanic subgroup this year. The economic disadvantaged subgroup saw gains in grades 3 to 6, with the greatest gains in grade 5, 17%. The focus last year, again, our Hispanic and our economically disadvantaged students both resulted in improving their performance in 5 of 6 grades. The math data trended positively in 3, 5, 6, and 8. What grade levels are missing? 4 and 7. Economic disadvantaged subgroup made gains in 3, 5, 6, and 8. And our IEP subgroup made gains in 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. So congratulations to our Department of Special Services. So what challenges do we have? So we do have some challenges. We have to look at 4th grade and 8th grade, which is our new 7th graders in literacy, because that went down. We want to look at level 5 proficiency in ELA and why did it go down? 4th and 7th grade proficiency scores were lower from the previous year, which we said throughout the presentation. So we are looking at that as well. And we want to continue closing that achievement gap. And our efforts with the subgroups for math will continue for the students who were in grades 4 and 7, who are now 5th and 8th graders. So our last 2 slides, our intervention strategies. Again, I spoke about RTI and basic skills being more cohesive across the district, more structured. That is one intervention. We're also going to continue to look at iReady because it has shown to be a good predictor of student performance. We have what we call evidence statements. The state gives us evidence statements, which tells us what standards we're falling below in. Our instructional coaches will work with our teachers on those standards. Our instructional coaches will work with our teachers on multi-step math problems and small group instruction. We'll continue to do walkthroughs. We're implementing a new ELA program in grades 3 to 5. We have advanced math in grades 4 and 5. And the lead teachers at ELA at the middle school are looking at that 8th grade data for ELA and the 7th grade data to determine where we need to make the improvement areas. And the last slide, we have a phonics program in K and 1. We spent all last year creating literacy benchmark assessments, 3 to 8, and now we're ready to actually implement those. And they will be given the same assessment to each grade level 1 time per marking period so that we can find out the trends and across the district in each of our grade levels. So those benchmark assessments in math and ELA will be administered this year. We have an extended day morning program. We'll be implementing a WIN program, which we're very excited about. And that's when students in grade 2 will spend 30 minutes 3 times a week working with a teacher that will meet them at their ability level where they are, introduce enough rigor to get them right before they get to that frustration level. But we want to make sure that we're meeting the kids where they are and taking them where they need to be. And we'll continue working on closing that achievement gap. This year, our focus, we focus on all students, but there'll be a specific focus on our African-American subgroup because this year they scored the lowest. Okay, and that ends my report.
Are you taking? Can we ask a question? I saw in your data, I mean, you went through it so quickly, but between 3rd and 4th grade, you saw in 3rd grade in 2023, there was a huge jump. And then last year, so what is the reason for that huge jump? And then I saw it, I think, in ELA and math. And then it seemed like in 24, there was a big decrease. So what was the cause of the huge increase, which is amazing, but then why did those same kids back off?
Are you referring to grade 8 ELA?
No, third to fourth, 2023. I think it was in ELA.
Okay.
And math.
So
you had a huge positive in 2023, which are those kindergartners, third grade. And then 2024, it looked like in both categories, they decreased. So I wasn't sure like why they had such a great 2023 and then a negative 2024.
Okay, I'm gonna pull up the presentation because I wanna see, I'm gonna make sure I know exactly what you're referring to. It's, let's try the 6th slide and see if that's what she's referring to. That's not it. Try one more. Is this the slide you're referring to?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. 75% in 2023 to 67% in 2024. That's 4th graders compared to 4th graders. So 2024 4th graders and 2023 4th graders. That's comparing the two. There was a drop when you're comparing the 4th graders from the 2 years. But what I did was I went back and looked at 2023 for grade 3 was 57%. And then 2024, when they were 4th graders, is 67%. So although they did not meet the level of the 4th grade class previously, when you're comparing them to the majority of themselves, there was an increase. Math, I want to go to the math slide that looks just like that. It's going to be several slides down. I think it's going to be after. Is this it here? That. Yes. So I indicated that this slide, and I'm sorry if I moved too fast for you. When I looked at this slide, I said that we didn't get the same results that we had in English language arts when trying to compare the students to themselves. And I had mentioned that, of course, we have to look into that. But in grade 4, the standards for math are when the new standards are introduced and when they're more difficult. And that's across the state. That's definitely, you can research that and see that 4th grade across the state is when the standards get to be a little bit more difficult in math. But again, yes, we did not see when trying to compare the students to themselves. Now, again, those two groups are not the exact same students, but I think the majority of them are. You're welcome. Absolutely. And preschool. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for doing double duty today as well. Can I get a policy committee report from Mrs. Branch Stewart, please?
Certainly. Good evening. The policy committee met on September 17th. Dr. Hackett, Mr. Moskowitz, and board members Julie Ketover, Maureen Rudder, Julianne Birdie, and I were present. Mr. Bruce Taylor was also present for a portion of the meeting. We discussed no policies or regulations for first read. For second read, the committee reviewed and recommends for board approval the following revised policies and regulations. Policy 0141, board member number and term. Policy 0164.2, requests for information by board members. Policy 2440, summer school. Policies and regulations 3160 and 4160, physical examination. Regulation 5200, attendance. Policy 5337, service animals. Policy 5350, student suicide prevention. Regulation 7510, use of school facilities. Policy 8420, emergency and crisis situations. Policy and regulation 8467, firearms and weapons. Policy 9181, volunteer athletic coaches and co-curricular activity advisors and assistants. And policy 2200, curriculum content. In regard to this last policy, I want to note that the committee's recommendation specifically includes a change to the language of the policy's third paragraph to read, the curriculum will be reviewed by the superintendent and approved by the board. The curriculum shall, as a minimum, include the curricular mandates of NJSA 18A education, NJAC 6A education, and the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. The committee also discussed policy 2365, acceptable use of generative artificial intelligence, and spoke with Mr. Taylor in regard to the district use of AI, regulation 5600, student discipline code of conduct, and student suspension data. Our next meeting is scheduled for October. Thank you.
I have a question, if that's okay, on some of your comments. Mr.
Cooper, can you wait until the policy committee, policy section when there's the motion in the second?
Mr. Rosner, can you provide a personnel committee report?
Yes, the personnel meeting was held on Thursday, August 29th. The attendees were myself, board member President Watson, Maureen Rudder, Dr. Hackett, and Mr. Moskowitz. We talked about the preschool hiring update and the middle school principal hiring. On the preschool end, the administration at that time hired 39 preschool staff members, and the district continued its effort to diversify its staff during the hiring process. They made an effort to do that. And then on the middle school principal hiring, we discussed the process, how they narrowed it down, and how it was the recommendation of the hiring committee to hire Ms. Inge as the principal of VMS, and the personnel committee supported this recommendation, and I think we're voting on that tonight or ratifying it. And also we talked about the hiring of an interim assistant principal on the condition that they participate in additional events at a rate of $450. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Audience participation. Anyone wishing to address the board, please approach the side table on the right and write your name and address on the login sheet. While the board is limited in its ability to respond to the public on matters involving personnel, litigation, negotiations, and attorney-client privilege, the board will now hear comments from the public relating to the items on the agenda for this board meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board will not take action this evening. You will be notified at some later time by letter, electronic mail, telephone, or in the context of a later board meeting of any action the board does take. Moving right along, comments from the board.
I have a few comments and questions. In regards to committee, I was wondering since the start of the year why we have not had a community relations, climate, culture, community relations committee. And are we ever having a committee meeting for that? I think that was done since the reorganization meeting since last January. And I think it's a really important committee and we should be meeting. So that's question number one. My other questions are policy committee. On policy 0.164.2, I have a few questions on that policy. Why are we copying Gloucester Township's policy? Why is this even needed? We have been a district for so many years and we've never had this type of policy before. So if maybe Jen, you can answer my questions.
Again, I apologize, but you can answer these questions when the policies are ready to be voted on.
Okay.
Be a motion in a second. Raise your questions.
Okay.
Discussion at that point.
Okay. So then I just have one more. I guess I'm the board representative for the Camden County Education Service Commission, and we are having a road trip meeting. And unfortunately, I just realized I have a back to school night that night. So I was wondering if any other board members would like to go in my place. It sounds like a pretty cool opportunity. They're going to the Corbett Inc. Experience Center. It's in Pennsylvania, and they're really hyping it up to be a pretty remarkable opportunity. So obviously someone's going to eventually take my place. So I think it might be a great opportunity. If someone is available, I believe it's October 10th. And they're meeting at the Education Commission. So if someone wants to reach out to me, if they would like to go in my place, that would be helpful. Thank you.
I have one comment. Number one, I want to thank Dr. Hackett for all of the diligence you've put into, one, answering the countless questions that you get through email throughout the month, but making sure that you always get back to everyone, that you do a thorough job of explaining kind of the decision-making process, that you have remained true to data and looking at the data and having it inform kind of how the board approaches things, how you approach things for the district. It's really important that we have strong foundations for why we do the things that we do. You noted in particular that after we did the parent survey, there's been an indication and a desire to have a greater look at behavioral problems. I think we've been seeing this trend, especially post-COVID, post-pandemic. We're seeing lots of social and emotional issues. We're seeing behavioral problems that are arising because of it. And now we're starting to see rises in some of our HIB complaints as well as suspensions. So I am going to be creating an ad hoc committee that will be singularly focused on addressing this parental concern, but also looking only at the behavioral, emotional, social well-being, as well as the data supporting that from a suspensions and HIB perspective. Those assignments will be forthcoming, but I wanted to make sure that I announce that at this point. Yep. Any other board comments? Moving to policy.
Now if you can answer my question, or you want me to repeat that?
We have to do a motion, a second.
Oh.
Yep. Can I get a motion to approve all of the items under policy?
So moved. Stewart.
Second. Rudder. Okay, now can you answer? I have another policy question following this one, but do you want me to repeat them or?
Yep, please.
So it's 0.1642. Why are we copying Gloucester's policy? And why is this even needed when we've been in existence for many years and we've never needed a policy like this? Want me to keep going on another policy or you want?
Yep. Yeah, no, keep going. I mean, unless you're asking us to take one of the policies out of discussion, the appropriate thing to do would be to vote no for the items that you disagree with or have additional questions about.
Well, I still want my questions answered. I mean, I think the community has a right to hear the answers to some of these.
If we have the answers to the questions, the appropriate time to ask questions related to agenda items is in committee prior to the board meeting. But if we have the answers now, we'll provide them.
I'm not on that committee, so. And you want to answer, or do you have that answer? Or
I'll note that you were previously provided with answers.
You didn't answer me why we're copying Gloucester's policy.
Council responded to you.
I don't think she answered that question.
Okay, fair. Vote no.
And why is it needed in general? After how many years have we been in existence? My other question is on policy 5350 with suicide prevention. There's a lot of changes in that policy. And just to note that September is suicide prevention month. And just as an idea for maybe going forward, maybe utilizing that policy and educating the community as suicide is such a chronic epidemic in the whole country, that maybe educating our community on the policy would probably be helpful, and especially just to bring awareness for Suicide Prevention Month. So, commentary to that. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote. Thank you.
Online voting is open.
Online. Oh, did I already vote? Okay.
Get it. I didn't get it. No.
I'm going to take a voice vote.
Stewart.
Stewart?
Yes.
I'm going to vote no to 01642.06.
No to 01642.
0164.2, I think it is.
I'll put yes as your answer, and then we'll make a note of. Thank you. All right, the motion passes, 7 yeses. One, I want to take. I'm trying to hit no, and it's going to abstain. Lady, can you just make a note for this one vote? It will not take, for whatever reason, when I'm clicking on it. It says abstain for Mrs. Stupler, but she's voting yes on all the policies and no on 0.0164.2. But it's going to show up as abstain in this.
Ready? You good? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve all of the items under curriculum?
So moved.
Second, Rosner.
Online voting is open. Stuart, do you want me to do it?
I'm logging back in, but I vote yes. You can do it.
The motion unanimously passes.
Can I get a motion to approve all of the items under personnel?
So moved. Rudder.
Second, Rosner.
I have a question on personnel. I saw in the notes that you're proposing to pay an interim principal, I believe, the 7th grade for $450 a day. Is that standard practice that in the past when we had someone until we hire someone permanently, is that standard practice?
I can't, Super Board Member Super, I can't speak to what happened in the past, but right now it's a new school year. We have over almost 1,000 kids in the middle school, and I felt that it was necessary to make sure that we were fully staffed with an administrative team. The $450 a day is what we normally do give to principals, but as Mr. Rosner said in his report, we discussed in personnel paying the assistant principal that amount with the understanding that the assistant principal, the interim assistant principal would stay for all evening events, any event related to 7th grade, any event related to math and science teachers, that they would stay for all of those events. And that's why it was agreed that we would pay that amount for the assistant. But I felt it was necessary to start the school year off with a full team at the middle school.
I'll open online voting. Motion unanimously passes.
Can I get a motion to approve all of the items under transportation?
So moved.
Second.
Online voting is open. Motion unanimously passes.
Can I get a motion to approve all of the items under buildings and grounds?
So moved.
Second.
Online voting is open. Motion unanimously passes.
Can I get a motion to approve all of the items under finance?
So moved.
Second. Rudder.
Online voting is open. Motion unanimously passes.
Public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board, please approach the side table on the right and write your name and address on the login sheet. While the board is limited in its ability to respond to the public on matters involving personnel, litigation, negotiations, and attorney-client privilege, the board will now hear comments from the public. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. The board will not take action this evening. You will be notified at some later time by letter, electronic mail, telephone, or in the context of a later board meeting of any action the board does take. Yes.
I'm John Tell. I've spoken before. I came to talk about very briefly, and I'm being a bit of a pedant. I'm sorry for that. The reports that you gave on the SLA and other things. I really am trying to look at things in cohort because that is a really powerful way to look at this, especially from a longitudinal trending data. Just some small things. One, you're using colors that you really shouldn't be using. Right, that also has grays, because anyone who's red, green, colorblind, they can't see the green. And secondly, I would recommend, as much as I love a table of numbers, that's my whole thing as a data scientist, visuals are going to help, especially at the board, understand what you're seeing and what you're trends. So doing line graphs or some other kind of visual when you're trying to probably going to make a more impactful and more easily understood presentation.
Oh, those are great comments. Thank you so much. Seeing no other comments, comments from the board. First, I want to congratulate Principal Inge. You had a wonderful start to the school year. We're so excited to have you, and I would love to welcome you up and say a couple of words, if you don't mind.
Second, I walked into a school I felt at home. Our school, and that they also learn and that we keep high expectations. Numbers, I was a former math teacher. I understand the work that we need to do. I also understand that as a what we really do well, and how can we make that even better and keep our high standards and make all our students feel included. From my heart. So I would do the work, I would be diligent, I am here to communicate. With me, my husband's also an educator. Son is starting the beginning career, our oldest is graduating college. He wants to that's okay. And then our only daughter, our baby girl, she's here tonight. I want to say to all our parents and our board, I'm an educator. I see that we love the babies, and we're going to do our best. My North Star has always been for me to kind of, that is my guiding principle. I wanted my children to have. Brother, we are, administrators together. It is a great place to be. Well, it really does. We are busy. We do a lot of good work.
Thank you very much. I know my children are incredibly lucky to have you as their leader. So we're all incredibly thankful. Any other board comments?
I have a few. I know people want to leave, but just briefly, I want to echo President Watson's statement about back to school night. I know the schools are having them. I was lucky to attend Crescent's. Now I have 2 kids in the district, so for kindergarten and 2nd grade, and shout out Mrs. RC and Mrs. Montgomery and Mrs. Morris. It was, it's exciting to be there to see the rooms that they're in, and you sit there in their little chairs and what they're looking at every day, and they write you a little letter, but it's, just and you write them back and they love it. And anyway, it was really, really nice and organized, and it's just, a lot of work, and I know we appreciate it. And the other thing is, my older son excitedly came home the other day and said, a Spanish teacher came into my class and spoke Spanish. And I thought that he was excited about it. And it's something that we, as a board, implemented last year, and it's nice to see like the real world impact of that decision, and that it actually made an impact, and he's excited for the next lesson. So I'm happy we were able to do that and introduce that at an early elementary age. Thanks.
Any other comments? Our next meeting is Wednesday, October 30th, and I will reiterate, we will have a guest there, Chief Bordy. I encourage everybody to try and make it. It will be wonderful to hear his thoughts in the process, and it's fantastic that he is taking the time out to partner with our district. It's important that that Voorhees district and the police department are very united and understand each other. That being said, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, Rudder.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.